cross multiplication method. Here, cross multiplication method, when you go to higher standards, in next standard means when we come to 11th or 12th in 10th, mostly we'll be using this particular method of solving, linear equations, because it will quickly give you the answers there. Multiplying or equating coefficients, that is elimination method, or by doing substitutions, it will take time. So this is the best method where, complex problems, if you want to solve in system of linear equation in two variable, not only in two variables, you can solve the equations, in system of linear equation 3 variables. So using this cross multiplication method, you can easily solve the complex problems. So before that, let us understand what is this your cross multiplication method is. Let's continue. Cross multiplication method. Now, what is this cross multiplication method is? Let us understand. Let us say you have been given linear equations in two variables, two linear equations in two variables, something like a1x plus b1y plus c1 equals 0, a2x plus b2y plus c2 equals 0. Now we have to solve these two equations using cross multiplication method. Observe and understand. Observe and understand how to do it. Check this. Now, if you want to find x, you need to find the value of x. So what you do is, just a second. Yeah. If you want to find the value of x, check this. What you do is close this x. The x what you see is, close this. What you're left with? You're left with, okay, I'll write that on the right hand side so that you can understand clearly. Observe. Like this. Here, if you close x, what you're left with? You're left with b1y plus c1 equals 0, b2y plus c2 equals 0. Just to make you understand, I'm writing that. Observe. Now, what you do is use your hand, close your x, in both the equations, right? You're left with b1y plus c1 in the first equation, b2y plus c2 in the second equation. So what are you left with? Yeah, this two. So apply cross multiplication method. What is that? b1 c2 minus b2 c1. It's something like you're left with b1 c1, b2 c2. What you do is apply cross multiplication method. So what do you get? You'll get b1 c2. You'll get b1 c2 minus b2 c1. That is your denominator of x's. b1 c2 minus b2 c1. Done? Guys, I'm sure it's clear. Very simple, very easy to understand. Close x in both the equations. Now you're left with coefficients b1 c1, b2 c2. Apply cross multiplication. I've done that here. That will be b1 c2 minus b2 c1. So that is what your x denominator is. Done? Now come to y. Let's find y. Observe and understand. Check this. Here, let's say if we want to find y by. What is that? Okay, this time what you do is close y. Use your hand, close y. So what you're left with? The coefficients a1 c1, a2 c2. So here, if you apply cross multiplication method, you'll get c1 a2 minus c2 a1. Now, guys, don't get confused here. In the previous case, what we have done is it is b1 c2. You have b2 c1. So we are doing b1 c2 minus b2 c1. Whereas when you go to the right, when you close this y, you should always start the cross multiplication method from the right of it. You always start cross multiplication method from the right of it. That means you're closing y. So what you're left with? Okay, right. Let me write that properly. You'll understand. Okay. Okay, what you're left with next? You're left with c1, c2. Next, when you come back, it will be a1, a2. So when you cross multiply, you'll get c1, a2 minus c2, a1. Now, this is the easiest way of understanding. If you don't apply this, what will happen is, there will be a sign difference. There will be a sign difference when it comes to y. That's the reason why the easiest method in case of x, x denominator, you close x, you're left with b1, c1, b2, c2. Directly apply cross multiplication. You'll get b1, c2 minus b2, c1. Guys, I'm sure it's clear. Same the case. When you want to find y, what you do is close y. So what are the coefficients left? c1, c2. You always go to the right. C1, C2. Now come back to the first. It will be A1, A2. Now cross multiply. You'll get C1, A2 minus C2, A1. C1, A2 minus C2, A1. Always remember, you should always start with right. Otherwise, there will be a sign difference. Next. You want constant now. The last one is you found x denominator, y denominator, then there is something called constant. You constant, you represent that as 1. Now, what is the denominator of it? Here, what do you do? We close C1, C2. We close C1, C2. So it is A1, B1, A2, B2, the coefficients, what you're left with, cross multiply, you'll get A1, B2 minus A2, B1. So the denominator of 1 is A1, B2 minus A2, B1. Clear? Is that? So very simple, close x, you'll get B1, C2 minus B2, C1, close y, C1, A2 minus C2, A1, close, your constant C1, C2, one denominator will be A1, B2 minus A2, B1. So from this, your x, what is x? It is cross multiply here. So what do you get? It is B1, C2 minus B2, C1 by A1, B2 minus A2, B1. Clear? Similarly, you equate this to, so what do you get? Your y will be C1 A2 minus C2 A1 by A1 B2 minus A2 B1. C1 A2 minus C2 A1 by A1 B2 minus A2 B1. Is this clear? Is this clear? So your x, it is B1 C2 minus B2 C1 by A1 B2 minus A2 B1. Y C1 A2 minus C2 A1 by A1 B2 minus A2 B1. Now, Milan, don't worry. I'll explain once again. Don't worry about that. I'm sure for rest of you guys, it is clear now. So here, the next method what we are discussing, Milan, it is cross multiplication method. The first method what we discussed is, what is that? Substitution method. Second one, elimination method. The third one is, cross multiplication method. Okay, Milan, cross multiplication method? Well and good. Chalo, good. So guys, is this clear for everyone? Anyone have any doubt? Please let me know. Any doubt anywhere? Please let me know. I'm sure it is clear.
Not clear, sir.
Sorry?
Sir, it is not clear for me.
Okay, I'll explain once again. Don't worry. Check this. Here, in cross multiplication method, we'll try to find out the value of x and y variables using cross multiplication. Now, what is this cross multiplication is? Check this. Let me tell you the easiest way. What are the coefficients you have? A1, B1, C1, A2, B2, and C2. Where A1, A2 are coefficients of x, B1, B2 coefficients of y, C1, C2 coefficients of they are the constants. So take x and y, and there is something called constant. Now, how to find x? How to find x? For x, you close A1, A2. What are you left with? You are left with B1, C1, B2, C2. Apply cross multiplication method. Apply cross multiplying. No, cross multiply them. What do you get? You'll get B1, C2. Next, minus. It will be always minus B2, C1. Is this clear? Close A1, A2 for x. You're left with B1, C1, B2, C2. So what do you have? You have cross multiply. You have B1, C2 minus B2, C1. That is what the denominator of x will get. That's how you should represent. Done. Now coming to, I'm sure x is clear. Now coming to your y. Coming to y. Now you want y, close B1, B2. So you are left with A1, C1, A2, C2. Now, when you are cross multiplying, you should always go to the right. On the right of x, you have B1, C1, B2, C2. On the right of y, first what do you have? You have C1, C2, then you have A1, A2. So write this, rewrite this, C1, C2, A1, A2. Cross multiply. You'll get C1, A2 minus C2, A1. You should always start from right hand side. On the right of y, you have C1, C2, then you have A1, A2. Cross multiply, you'll get C1, A2 minus C2, A1. That is what your denominator of your y is. Perfect? Come to constants. Now for constants, is 1. For 1, denominator, what do you do? Close C1, C2. Close this C1, C2. So you're left with the other one. Yeah. C1, C2. You close C1, C2. So you're left with A1, B1, A2, B2. Okay, you're left with A1, B1, A2, B2. What do you do? Cross multiply. So what do you get? You get A1, B2 minus A2, B1. That is what the denominator of 1 is. So we got all the values for x, for y, and for the constant 1. We always consider the constant to be 1. So what is x? You simply equate this two. Simply equate this two. So what do you have? You have x by b1 c2 minus b2 c1. 1 by a1 b2 minus a2 b1. So what do you do? Cross multiply. Cross multiply the denominator of x to the right hand side of it. So what is x? Cross multiply b1 c2 minus b2 c1 by a1 b2 minus a2 b1. That is how you'll get your x. Done? Clear now? Next, your y. How to find y? Simply, what do you do? Equate this two. Does that equate this two? So what do you get? Okay, y is nothing but c1a2 minus c2a1. What is your constant? It is a1 b2 minus a2 b1. Done. Therefore, what is y? Y is nothing but c1 a2 minus c2 a1 by a1 b2 minus a2 b1. So if you cross multiply the denominator of y to the RHS, that is what the value of y you get. So this is something you need to understand. This method is called cross multiplication method. In future, in your higher classes, I prefer you guys go for cross multiplication only. Get used to it whenever you're solving your linear equations in two variables. Better use this cross multiplication method. I'm sure it's clear for everyone. Anyone have still any doubt? Please let me know. Copy this. We'll go for problems part. So we'll solve some questions based on cross multiplication method.
Sir, I have one doubt.
Sure.
Sir, why minus sign coming between these two expression A1 C2 minus B2 C1?
Actually, if you go to the background of it, the system of linear equations, we can represent them in determinant form. There's something called determinant. It's a long concept. Chalo, I'll give you an overview. If you can understand, that's well and good. What to do is the best way of solving linear equations is using matrix method. In matrix, you have something called determinant method. In determinant, we always represent these equations in terms of determinant, something like a1 b1 a2 b2, right? Next, b1 c1 b2 c2. Next, c1 c2, then a1 a2. So here your x is nothing but cross multiply. In determinant, we always multiply like this because there is a concept behind it. At this point of time, it's a big concept. Let's not get into it. But that's how you're supposed to be getting the value of x is because of this determinant. We call it as determinant. The two bars, what you see is determinant. So that's how this concept of cross multiplication has come into picture. So it is a1 b2 minus a2 b1. A1 b2 minus a2 b1. Then you have b1 c2 minus b2 c1 in this case. In this case, it is, if you cross multiply, you'll get b1 c2 minus b2 c1. In determinants, it is c1 a2 minus c2 a1. So this is the idea. That's how you get it. So that's how you solve for x and y. The reason is because of the determinants. So thus that particular concept is not required now. So let's not get into it. The only thing is you should understand how to apply your cross multiplication method in solving linear equation in two variables, get the values of the given variables. Is this clear? I'm sure